Hello, welcome back to my daily coverage of the Tour Divide. We're now on day 6 already. It's really flying by. So let's have a little look over at track leaders and see what's been going on over the last few days. And let me just put it on big screen. So as you can see, we've kind of finally got a little bit of stability in the race in terms of positions. This tends to happen, 6 days in now, everyone's going to be feeling fatigued, despite what it may look like on the tracker. Everyone is really going to be feeling it. So we're approaching the halfway mark. So Justinus is still leading. So he's heading into the Great Basin, which is, I'll show you on Rider GPS in a second. It's kind of, I think it's widely agreed that halfway through the basin somewhere is about halfway through the race. Ulrich Bartholomew, he's still in second position, and there's been a 30-mile gap for most of yesterday. So that seems to have stabled. They seem to be riding at a similar kind of pace. And yeah, I guess at the moment it's just kind of a holding pattern as everyone settles in to the sort of the second part. And yeah, they're both ahead of Mike Hall's record dots. So yeah, they're making good progress, especially when we consider all the weather that's happened over the start of the race, and that goes across the field as well, the women as well. Megan Hakkinen, she's excuse the grey patches. I don't know why it's happening on track leaders at the moment. If anyone does know, just let me know, because I'm not that technologically advanced. But Megan, she's doing so amazingly well. She's way ahead of Lael's women's record, which was just under 15 and a half days. So it looks like she's probably at about 14-day pace. She's currently level with Chris Plesko's single speed record, and she's closing up on the front of the race as well. So Lawrence ten Dam, he's had a few issues. He's had some tyre issues. I think he punctured both tyres and used all his inner tubes, and then had to go off course to find a bike shop. And it's a pretty bad place for that to happen. If you remember last year, Justinus had a very similar problem with his axis shifters in this area, and he had to go down to Jackson to which is down here to buy some new batteries essentially. Jimmy Ashby, he's settled in now. Him and Megan, they're very similar. So I suspect he might close up a little bit on Megan if she stops here. And Anna Jager, she's still in second position. And she's, again, it's a similar gap between her and Megan. It's about 90 miles, and that seems to have settled quite substantially. And again, she's ahead of Lael's pace as well, which is amazing. And two women inside the top 10 is pretty damn cool to see. So before we go any further, you all know by now that Redshift are supporting my coverage. So a big thank you to Redshift. Check out their website. I've got a bit of a discount code in the description if you want 15% off any of their cool stuff. And yeah, thanks for the support and believe in what I'm doing. So cheers to those guys. So let's have a little look now at the route and where these riders are. So Justinus has entered the Great Basin. So he's between Boulder and Atlantic City. Arguably, this isn't quite the basin yet. I think it's probably widely regarded that the basin for real starts here. And as you can see, if we look at the elevation on the map here, let me just highlight it and you can see it a little bit easier. So the basin basically is a big kind of high level desert in the middle of Wyoming. And you can see that it's not flat, but it's relatively flat, but still fairly high altitude, still looking sort of like 2,000 odd meters. So it's not necessarily easy, but the big problem here, it can be the weather. If you remember last year, there's the infamous photo of Justinus, Ulrich and Jens stuck in a portaloo in the middle of the basin, and there was incredible mud and rain and weather, and if that comes in, you can get stuck for hours. But if it's dry and favourable winds, you can get through fairly easily. When I did it in 2019, I started in Pinedale, which is the big town. Well, I say big town, is the town before you enter the basin. And yeah, I slept in a hotel in Pinedale. I left about 1 a.m, and I got somewhere on this section here by about 1 a.m. So you can cross that big section in 24 hours. That was with a tailwind in good conditions, and I suspect it doesn't get much better than that. If we have a look on the tracker at the moment, we'll put the windy layer on and see how the conditions are going. You may notice it's 3 a.m. and both riders are still riding. Now it's if people are going to do an all-nighter, then the basin tends to be the place that it makes sense. Mainly because of the weather and the heat. It can be very hot. It's basically a desert, and by riding at night, you can basically avoid those hotter temperatures. Looks like my windy layer is not working at the moment. I don't know what's going on with track leaders, or if it's my laptop. But yeah, it's struggling. But I checked earlier, and it's looking like the wind is kind of coming from the east, so it's favourable, and well. It's not a tailwind, but it's not slowing them down. So I suspect we'll see both of those guys push through a good chunk of the basin tonight, and then probably into Colorado in the morning, I suspect, where there's Brush Mountain Lodge, which is just after Savory, just as you enter Colorado. Kirsten does a great job helping everyone. The lodge is open, and I suspect they'll go there for a big resupply and clean their kit and have a rest. They've also started doing the first sort of big passes, and so you cross into the Teton Valley. I don't actually know the name of this climb across here. It's not the biggest. It's a bit of a drag. And then you're riding through the Teton Valley on the road. And then you've got the first big one, Togwotee Pass, and then Union Pass. And as you can see by the elevation, they're up like 3,000 meters. There's not many points on the race route that are higher than that. So I've got a bit of video actually, just to show you what they've been experiencing. So let me find it. This one here. This will be... this is Togwotee Pass. So this was 2019. I ended up catching Lael and a few others on this section. And the interesting thing about this section is I imagine the conditions are going to be quite similar. So this was quite early in the morning, like 6-7 a.m. And as you can see, the snow is quite frozen and the mud's quite frozen. But if you get it timed wrong, so 2022 when I went through there, I was going through a little bit later in the day, probably 10 o'clock. The sun was up and it was just a mud fest, and the snow was slushy, and it was real slow going. So timing is key on this particular section. I've only been through this section twice, but it's always seemed to be fairly cold. I mean, you get into 3,000 meters up here, 2,500-3,000 meters, so the temperatures are going to be lower. So yeah, it'd be interesting just to see, if that does affect or slow down any of the riders further back. I've not heard anything from them yet. So I'm sure we'll hear something from Justinus or Ulrich in the next day or so. And then the next big pass is Union Pass, and this is the plateau at the top. I mean, I didn't get to here in 22. I scratched quite early, but as you can see, play that again. There's a big plateau up there. Now, 2019, the route up the climb was slightly different, I believe. But nonetheless, you'll be going over the top, and this is one of those climbs that just drags and drags, and the descent feels longer than the climb. You can see from the profile here, it's not straight down. It's got quite a bit of elevation gain in the descent. So you lose 3,000 feet, but you gain 2,000 feet, and that's the descent. So it does take a long time, and it can mess with your head if you're not prepared for it. But it looks like our leaders got over there okay. And normally, once you get over there, you're kind of into the more deserty area. Although, if any of you have watched Lachlan Morton's film about his ride on the Divide last year, you may remember the scene where he's just getting absolutely smashed by the weather and lightning and terrible kind of conditions. And that was coming over Union Pass. And I wouldn't want to be stuck up there on a big plateau in those conditions for sure. So let's have a little bit of look at some of the social media, seeing as Track Leaders is not playing ball today. Oh, actually, one thing before we go any further, I just did want to say, I did mention this at the end of yesterday's video, but I know not everyone gets that far. So this is the run and the rest. Some interesting stats between Justinus and Ulrich. So shows you the run time is basically the percentage of time you're moving forward. And then you've obviously got rest time as well. So and the average speed. So currently Justinus is the fastest guy on the course, 11.5 miles an hour. Ulrich is the third fastest, 10.7 mile an hour average. And Lawrence, we know he's a fast rider. He's had a few issues. We'll discuss that a little bit more in a second. 11.3 miles an hour. So basically, Justinus has slept or has rested 5 hours more than Ulrich, and he's riding almost a mile an hour quicker. So that's an interesting stat, and it shows that Justinas is going well and puts him in quite a good position going forward. We'll see how it pans out, but it's one to keep an eye on. And you can also see from this stat, Megan Hakkinen, 10.2 mile an hour. She's just flying. She's doing so well. And she's riding faster than some of the, even Thomas now. So she's riding faster. I do wonder if Lauren slows down a bit now, has some issues, if she could even start challenging for that third position overall, which would be pretty amazing. But there's still a long way to go, so anything can happen. So yeah, keep an eye on that run rest, and that gives some really, really good information. So let's head over to some social media now. People are kind of slowing down a bit and taking a bit more time to post stuff. So this is Mateo Perez. He's been posting some good stuff, and this the next one is one I wanted to show you. This is the classic Tour Divide camp spot in the pit toilet. Everything you could possibly need as a rider. You've got a toilet there. Even got toilet roll on this one. What a luxury! And it's warm. You're out of shelter, and you can shut the door and lock it, and the bears aren't going to get you. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of riders are sleeping in places like this all over the US at the moment. Look at that for a sunrise.
Sunrise on Fleecer Ridge. And not a cloud in the sky.
What a treat after all that bad weather. So it looks like the worst of it has shifted now. Still cold though. Look at that frost on the ground. But yeah, if they're still going now, then they've cleared the worst of it. So good on all those riders who are still out there pushing. And look at that, blue skies. That must be such a nice feeling. And he's saying here, Old Bannock stretch is hell. That's the peanut butter mud. We saw Ulrich and Justinas got stuck just after the Lima, but I think a lot of the field probably got stuck in that Old Bannock road section, which is notorious for peanut butter mud. So yeah, this looks like the section into Lima, and yeah. This is how it is on the Tour Divide. Standards get lowered. You just shovel food in anywhere, anyhow. So yeah, nice one, Mateo. Keep it going. And then Megan, she posted a nice little update yesterday. So let's have a little listen to her.
Just wrapping up day 5 of the Tour Divide. The day started out with a couple of Winter Wonderland climbs out of Butte. I saw a moose. Fleecer Ridge was sketchy and incredible. Wise River, I got to meet some doll watchers. Big Tour Divide sign coming into town. I didn't see another rider all day, and I was flying high in the tailwind, so I figured I'd push on to Lima. So I booked a hotel room, and then I got slapped with a headwind and just had to really push through it. I thought it was going to be a low elevation day, but I got almost 4,000 meters and 300K, and didn't roll in until about 2 a.m. So gonna eat my burrito and go to bed, wake up and do it all again.
And that's a pretty good summary. Eat a burrito, go to bed, wake up, do it all again. So that's the Tour Divide for you. And actually loving Megan's Maypee hat. It's classic cycling team.
Just wrapping up.
And I just sent 133 rain gloves. Really good. Check them out. That's what I use. They really are quite good. Now the big story, Laurens ten Dam. Obviously he's dropped off quite significantly. Had some punches and basically used all his tubes up. So let's have a look. He's been posting on his Instagram. Some of it's in English, some of it is in Dutch. So we'll have a little listen and see what we're saying.
Your experiences, yes.
Hey, zit hij dan? De reddende engel Mike. Ik zat er op het rondje. En hij was de hond aan het uitlaten. Hij zegt, joh, ik breng je wel even naar de fietsenwinkel. 3 kwartier rijden, dichtstbijzijnde. Die heb ik net gebeld en die zegt dat hij alles kan maken. Dus
So essentially, he's getting a lift off the course. You can take a lift off the route and back as long as you sort of go to the same place. He's going into the bike shop to get some supplies. So yeah, let's skip forward. So this is Mike, obviously the guy who's helped him out and given him a lift. And yeah, in the bike shop now. I think this one is in English.
On the bike, but he got me all sorted and up and running again, man.
Easy.
So now a 1 hour drive back and then I can start over again. With a filled stomach and a working bike. What's the name of the shop again?
Sled Shed Bikes and Boards in Rexburg, Idaho.
Rexburg, Idaho. I'm going Starbucks Moxcope ook. Idaho. Been there. Series. So sleds. What's the name?
Sled Shed.
Sled Shed. Go there.
So there we go, nice one, Sled Shed helping out Lawrence. And yeah, we see that he gets back en route and he's riding again. So sounds like Lawrence is up and running again. He did mention somewhere that actually he was struggling to repair his tubes. I think it was actually on Jay's Insta. We'll see in a minute. Basically, he was running these kind of super lightweight like TPU plastic tubes, which you can see the reason people take them is that's a standard inner tube. That's a TPU tube. You know, it's like a third of the size, a third of the weight, or maybe even half of the weight. But the problem with these is they're very hard to patch. So if you puncture these, basically it's very, very difficult to repair. Whereas with a traditional tube, you can just put a patch on and kind of almost keep going endlessly until you run out of patches. So yeah, Lawrence was relying on these and then started puncturing them and then was struggling to repair them. So he had to go off course, get new tires, get new inner tubes. I imagine he got a quick once over on the bike. So yeah, these lightweight tubes, they're all well and good when they're packed in your bag, but when you actually need them, that's a problem. Actually, this is one I'm slagging them off a bit, but I actually took this on Tour Divide with me in 2019. As you can see, it's still rolled up, never used. This was actually a third tube. I had two normal tubes, and I took that as an emergency tube just so I had another option if I needed. Anyway, let's get back to the social media. Again, JP is still out on course. So he's putting some really good content up. This is the kind of diet you're looking at, these burritos. I mean, you're so sick of them by the end of it. The food on Tour Divide is not great. You're eating out of gas stations. Yes, it's certainly a shock coming from Europe because you can buy bad food in Europe, but America just takes it to another level. So yeah, you're not fueling on good stuff. It's junk food all the way. Calories in, miles out. That's the kind of the rule of thumb. Obviously, Megan, he caught up with her.
How are you?
Let's go back again. Caught up with Megan. So this was probably around when she sent that update yesterday, up over Fleecer Ridge. A little bit swollen, which is what we talked about yesterday with Liam. The medical condition with a very big word that I can't pronounce. Basically, when you start smashing your body like that, it retains fluid and cheeks can puff up and things like that. So yeah, let's see who else Jay caught up with.
How are you? Cold night.
It was a cold morning, like negative 10 degrees.
How was your bivvy?
Yeah, I slept quite well, but then I woke up at like 4 just covered in ice. And then from there, I got my sleeping bag wrapped around me and everything. Man, that was cold.
Classic morning on the divide.
Yeah. Stoked to get a coffee soon.
All right, you'll be there soon.
See ya.
So yeah, that's Jimmy Ashby. He's in about 5th. I actually am hoping to get some updates from him. He's got my number. So Jimmy, if you're listening, you know where I am. Drop me a message. Love to hear how you're getting on. So yeah, he's pushing on well and doing. So yeah, that's a shot of Jimmy. And then obviously they're going into Idaho now. And here's Lawrence.
What do you think about this sunny weather?
And I love this weather. This morning I woke up. Yesterday night was cold. I came into Saltail and I was on top of that mountain before you go down. And I saw the ice forming, on the ground in that forest. And the water got frozen. Man, it was cold. And this morning my whole face was puffy because of the last. I thought to be in the hotel by 10, but then I hit the mud, and then I hit the big nail, and then I hit the tire, and then suddenly it was 2. Fuck.
That's
Found another tube, but it's 650B, and yesterday I had 2 flats. I had to tube them both, but the rear one is still leaking. So 30 minutes, the tire.
How you feeling overall?
I'm worried if I need Spindale because that's the next batch job.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's,
you have some patches though, right? Some tape? You'll be fine.
Yeah. But the inner one is one of those plastic ones. I don't know if the patch is holding those.
Just run high pressure, you'll be fine.
Yeah, just a bit to the max. And I found a movement.
So yeah, that was Jay catching up with Lawrence Tendam. So yeah, give Jay a follow. He's putting some good stuff out there. So I assume that was going through Teton before he went off route to get some new tubes. So yeah, looks like he's back up and running, and yeah, that's it for today. So I'll be back again in the morning with some more updates. I'm going to keep an eye on the tracker. We'll see how the front of the race develops with the men, and we can see if Megan can close into a top 3 position. That'd be pretty amazing to see. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to give us a subscribe if you're enjoying this and you want to see more. So yeah, see you again in the morning.